Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching. It is News Done Differently. It is the 14th day of April, 10:13 p.m. I apologize for being a little bit late. In all honesty, I couldn't find my glasses, and I need them to do the show. A lot going on, and we're going to get to it. We're going to get right to it, actually. I'm going to do the news segments as we normally do, and but this time, once the news segments are done, we're going to do a deep dive and watch a video together. Information that I believe is really important to get out. So important, actually, I just totally changed my mind. And we're gonna go into the deep dive first, so that when it's replayed, the show's replayed, which hopefully I know a lot more people watch on the replay. I'm not gonna say hopefully, and I thank all of you. I thank those of you watching now. Thank you. As always, I'm not in the chat at the moment, but I'm gonna hop in here. Hi, Sissy. Hello, everyone. Sissy, thanks for all you do. Get back out of the chat. Come on, there we go. Well, I don't guess I can. Okay. All right. So again, thank you all for watching. We're going to start with a QAnon video that I referenced earlier, and we're going to go through it. Well, sorry about this.
Restored Republic Fiat.
Okay.
GCR update as of April.
Okay. We're going to go through this, and it's important for a number of different reasons. It's important because you can tell the artificial intelligence voice. It without a doubt proves that Russia is behind the QAnon movement. And then, as I did the little cutout earlier this afternoon, they give a specific date, 2 dates actually, for a call to fight. So I don't know how many people. I don't know if anybody that is not involved in QAnon and not watching this show will be aware of what could happen tomorrow and Sunday. Hopefully nothing, but at the same time, it only takes one to a handful to really create a problem. But we're going to go through this, and since I have chat up, I'll stop periodically, and I'll go into the chat and see if anybody has any questions or comments or anything like that, and kind of break it up into segments.
April 14th, 2022. Judy note, Rothschild-owned central banks in 36 countries were closed or closing due to bankruptcy, with many.
I hope you can tell right away that it is artificial intelligence generated voice.
Many more to go. The QFS has everything in place.
QFS is the QAnon financial system.
Every asset registered and verified, including assets pulled from 18 countries that have stepped away from their central banks. The U.S. Gov Incorporated was bankrupt, which in turn has closed Congress, with members having received their last paycheck and told not to come back.
Actually, Congress is closed. It's because it's Easter weekend.
For all intents and purposes, the U.S. Treasury in Washington, D.C. was also shut down, with building closed and locked. Although, the new U.S. Treasury located on an Indian reservation near Reno, Nevada was buzzing with activity.
Okay. most of QAnon videos are like this. They're absolute, just making stuff up. And it's been that way from the start. Q originated with these, what they were called drops, which were just like almost nonsensical gibberish. I think it was the beginning of AI, and people started encoding it. And there's a giant rabbit hole that a lot of people went down. A lot of them have come out, thankfully. There are still those there, and that's why we're doing this, because nobody else is. And there are a couple of, as I say each time I reference one of these, and we've never gone all the way through one like this. As I reference these, there are kernels of truth in all of this, but it's all wrapped in a whole bunch of garbage. And the problem is, people that watch these constantly can't tell the truth from the garbage.
A global currency reset. Mnuchin said that the greatest transfer of wealth in the Earth's history would take place over Easter weekend, meaning that Easter could be announced this weekend. Marks, I am being told that Easter week is ago. According to Marks, bondholders were still expecting to be paid later in the week, or...
Okay, a lot of these people that watch these, you're hearing bondholders. Other people that watch these have invested their money in this new Q bond. Okay, we've already heard that that somebody sucked all the money out. It was a kind of a grab and go thing, and the value of the cryptocurrency side of this has already tumbled greatly. But they keep showing these videos, and they keep telling these people that, these market resets are happening, and things are in the works, and you're going to get your money back with all the profits you've been promised.
Early next week. Bondholder contacts say that all the transfers back and forth to settle bonds have been going extremely smoothly and see no problems with the system. Everything was done. Marks, bondholders report that this was event-driven, so they were waiting for an event. They alluded to things being done within the next week or so. It's very close. Marks, Iraqi contacts were saying the same thing and believed the Iraqi dinar would get a new rate on Thursday, 14th of April. According to Bruce, redemption centers were expecting to be fully staffed on Thursday, 14th of April. A conference call with the U.S. Treasury was scheduled for 10 a.m. EST. Tier 4B, us, the Internet Group.
Tier 4B, us, the Internet Group. These are the people online that have been pouring money into this. Okay, so as they're hearing this now, they're all like, perking up. Oh my gosh, here we go. They're going to tell us, when we're going to get our money and how much we're going to get. They play the same basic setup, like every 3 months, but there's always those kernels of truth, and this one has more than kernels. Okay.
We're expected to be notified to make foreign currency exchange /ZIM bond redemption appointments at the same time bondholders receive.
By the way, that's Stone Mountain, Georgia. And it just brought to mind that Grandmaster Jay of NFAC is coming to trial in Louisville. He's going to be going on trial, jury trial, coming up the 25th of this month. So I had planned on going down there and covering it. That's before everything that has happened and is continuing to happen, including gas skyrocketing and food costs. And but anyway, we will be trying to update it as we can on Grandmaster Jay's trial, because I know a lot of the people that watch this show will be curious about that. And it will be interesting to see if the same rules for what he is charged with, which was the same thing that the police officer in Breonna Taylor's killing was charged with, it will be interesting to see how, if he is found guilty, which I personally, I think it was all about shutting the NFAC down because they became the fourth largest militia in the country and the largest um, non-white, all black community militia. And I think people in power saw that as a threat and wanted to try to stop it. And first chance they got, they took it. That's my personal opinion, and that's why I'm not going to be on the jury. But we will be covering it. Sorry about the little tangent there. Let's get back to the Russian controlled, artificial intelligence driven thing that has become QAnon and almost overthrew our government.
Liquidity. Deep state-owned central banks around the globe are on their way.
My name is John Cephalou, and I'm the CEO of Billsters. By the time we were about to get our first client, the first question she asked,
Yeah, well, there were 22 countries which were rid of the Rothschild Bank and 14 more nations in the process of closing those banks in their countries over the next 7 days. By Sunday 1st of May, the global currency reset to gold/asset-backed currency of 210 nations was expected to be announced. If so, by Monday 2nd of May, the general public could exchange currencies.
Okay. Is there anybody in the comment section that has any doubt that this is an artificial intelligence program? The voice is artificial intelligence generated voice. If you do, I don't know what to say.
The new international rates. Be Wednesday, 13th of April. Fleming. The QFS has everything in place. Every asset registered and verified, including assets pulled from 18 countries that have stepped away from their central banks. Managed with court edict, all necessary orders in place. Mainly BRICS countries have all removed.
BRICS countries, okay? BRICS countries are Brazil, Russia, India, China, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
Rothschild from their monetary system. CBI, Iraq and Iran, has to be two of them. Saint Germain's assets are now in the quantum system.
Saint Germain's assets.
Distribution has to take place in the quantum system. How that distribution will take place is still only conjecture. That it will take place is committed and written in stone. The 18 central banks that were closed were shut down due to bankruptcy. They had no money, so they had to close.
None of that's
Congress
true.
is closed and they've been told not to come back.
Again, that's not true. Congress is closed. So they repeat this, that Congress is closed, the Department of Treasury is closed, basically Washington's closed. And they repeat it 3 times during this. And I think it's, hey, don't go to Washington because they're closed.
U.S. Treasury for all intents and purposes is shut down too. The building is locked and closed. The U.S. Gov Incorporated is bankrupt too. See Restored Republic, since the Act of 1871 which established the Washington, D.C. District of Columbia and eventually the IRS and Federal Reserve, U.S. citizens have been living under and paying taxes to the U.S. Incorporated Corporation, which was owned by certain international bankers and aristocracy of Europe and Britain, who also captured taxpayer monies of other countries.
Okay, what they're referencing here, I don't know if they know what they're referencing, but they're referencing a group specifically worldwide called the Bilderberg Group. And actually, I was going to do an episode on them last week, and things just got crazy. And then there's a group here in the United States called the Bohemian Grove. I referenced the Bohemian Grove in my latest novel, America, Land of the Greed, Home of the Grave. And you can get a copy of that A link is in the description if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're not, go to the American Doofus channel, home of news done differently, as well as other things. And you'll be able to, or just email me, americandufus@gmail.com.
The Q Movement, Global Military Alliance, BRICS Alliance, and Global Currency
Okay. He laid them all together. All right. Running back just a little bit. He lays them all together. QAnon, the BRICS Alliance, and World Currency.
District of Columbia, and eventually the IRS and Federal Reserve. U.S. citizens have been living under and paying taxes to the U.S. Incorporated Corporation, which was owned by certain international bankers and aristocracy of Europe and Britain, who also captured taxpayer monies of other countries. The Q Movement, Global Military Alliance, BRICS Alliance, and Global Currency Reset was all about reversing this 1871 Act of England and returning to the people.
Global Currency Reset was the other thing that they had put together. So QAnon and the BRICS Alliance. The BRICS Alliance again is an unofficial alliance between Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Is it an actual thing? Well, it may be a public relations move by Russia to try to, kind of bring them in, bring those other countries in to an alliance. Assume them in. These are all the people that's going to be on my side, because he knows NATO. Western Europe. Everybody by now knows the NATO countries. And it may be a public relations thing. It may be a legitimate an alliance of which kind of underground, under the table. It doesn't get talked about in a whole lot of circles as far as geopolitically, diplomatically. It gets talked about a lot under the surface. So he's tying them together, and this is, if you're watching, you're saying, oh, that's not enough to say this is Russia. No, that's not why I'm saying there's a whole lot more.
People, citizen taxpayer monies of 210 nations, including the U.S. The deep state was all about maintaining their control over this global financial system by preventing the global currency reset from happening, promoting war and global chaos through use of pandemics, plus mind controlling the general public into believing their narration by use of the mass media so as to bring in a new world order and thus rule the world. Near deaths.
And that is the plan. If there is a BRICS, the plan is to shift all the economic power to those 5 countries and their allies, their satellites, if you will. With Russia, it's not just Russia. With Russia, you get Belarus, you get, the stands, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, you'll get all of those. With China, you'll get North Korea, so they want to establish a new world order. They want it to be dictatorial, authoritarian. Everything 1984 that we talked about, war is peace, ignorance is power, and slavery is freedom. It's scary, and it is good and evil, and I've talked about that a lot on this show. This before this war even kicked off, I kept saying this is not going to be about Ukraine. This is freedom, democracy, dictatorship, and authoritarianism, fascism. And I still believe that. But back to our video here, the point being, they want to establish, and our rules of propaganda. Accuse the other side. Accuse your enemy of that which you are doing. They're accusing this unknown entity of trying to create a new world order, when in fact that's what the fascist far right is indeed trying to do.
Civilization events incoming. Worldwide civil unrest was rising to a boiling point, plus food, natural gas and fuel shortages. Cyber attacks were expected that would shut down banking systems of the deep state Davos Group and World Economic Forum. The 17th Annual Aboriginal Holocaust Memorial Day, Friday, April 15, 2022. The International Tribunal to Crimes of Church and State invites you to remember the first victims of Big Pharma and honor the fallen children of Canadian death camps this Friday, April 15, 2022, the 17th Annual Aboriginal Holocaust Memorial Day. The world knows about the Canadian genocide of Native children because of an event that was launched by survivors of that crime 17 years ago.
There was
the first Aboriginal Holocaust Memorial Day in Vancouver on April 15, 2005.
This is an actual thing.
Sparked a national movement that eventually forced out the truth and deposed Pope Benedict and other guilty criminals. More than 60,000 children.
True. Okay, that's not so true. It didn't force. People said they were sorry. There were no criminals. There was no forced this or that.
Were routinely murdered in Catholic, Anglican, and United Church Indian residential schools and hospitals between 8.
Okay. This is important. I didn't break it down in the afternoon video.
Day. The world knows about the Canadian genocide of Native children because of an event that was launched by survivors of that crime 17 years ago. The first Aboriginal Holocaust Memorial Day in Vancouver on April 15, 2005, sparked a national movement that eventually forced out the truth and deposed Pope Benedict and other guilty criminals. More than 60,000 children were routinely murdered in Catholic, Anglican, and United Church Indian residential schools and hospitals between.
Okay, Catholic, Anglican, and United, right? The only really religion that is not, it's the religion of the state. I'm just going to put it bluntly. The Orthodox Church. And the Orthodox Church has always been in conflict with the Catholic Church, the Anglican churches, and of course the Protestant churches or the United churches. So this is just a little bit more Russian propaganda in targeting those specific churches that are outside of the Orthodox view of Russia. Just adding a little bit context.
In 1891 and 1996, and so it is now banned under international law. The tyranny could not have happened without this earlier regime of terror against Indigenous children across Canada. Now that the churches and drug companies responsible for this massacre have been lawfully convicted of genocide by an international court, we are all obligated to help shut down these criminals and their corporations. On Friday, April 15, 2022, remember the fallen innocents and pledge your...
Okay, if you still don't get that it's AI, again, listen close. The way the words are pronounced.
Have been lawfully convicted of genocide by an international court, we are all obligated to help shut down these criminals and their corporations. On Friday, April 15, 2022, remember the fallen innocents and pledge yourselves to fight for those who continue to be killed. On that day and the next Sunday, rally at...
I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to get through this ad, and then we will come back. Thank you for watching, those of you that are here. News done differently, and this is a different way than we normally do it. But we're dissecting, if you're just joining us, we're dissecting a QAnon video that has specific dates and specific yet general targets for potential violence, which would trigger more violence. And this is just one of a number of these videos, and they've all popped back up this week in a major way. This one is the one I chose because it has a lot of the different elements we've been talking about all along.
To continue to be killed. On that day and the next Sunday, rally at your local Catholic, Anglican.
Again, the things that are of significance, that the things that they're wanting the people to subconsciously get, they repeat generally 3 times.
Been lawfully convicted of genocide by an international court. We are all obligated to help shut down these criminals and their corporations. On Friday, April 15th, 2022, remember the fallen innocents and pledge yourselves to fight for those who continue to be killed. On that day and the next Sunday.
A big part of the Q movement is, they're going to save the babies. They're going to save the children. And we pointed out the pedophiles, the child pornographers, and they keep coming. When we get to the news, there's more.
Rally at your local Catholic, Anglican, and United churches and enforce the arrest and confiscation orders against these killers.
And tomorrow's Good Friday. Okay, today is Thursday, it's Maundy Thursday, Maundy. Maundy Thursday is the day of the Last Supper in the life of Jesus. He has the Last Supper, goes to the garden and prays, and is eventually taken before the Jewish religious community, then before the Roman community, then back to the Jewish community, and eventually is crucified. So on Good Friday, in all of these churches that he's talking about, in the Catholic Church, in the Anglican Church, in the Protestant United Faiths, Good Friday, they're going to be church celebrations, if you can call it that, church events happening. So there will be targets. Hopefully nobody reacts. Nobody actually takes it serious enough to actually do anything. But if they do, we know where it's come from.
The real news for Wednesday, April 13, 2022, AP. Multiple U.S. government agencies issued a joint alert warning of the discovery of malicious cyber tools created by unnamed advanced threat actors that they said were capable of gaining full system access to multiple industrial control systems. Charlie Ward, our sources say that French journalists arrived in Ukraine to find the Ukraine military were completely under control. The CIA and FBI were protecting illegal activities of the family.
Okay. Of course, none of that's true, but you've got, if it will come up, okay. But you've got, oh, I didn't bring us back up to share, did I? My bad. Here we go. I'll run it back just a couple of seconds here. That should be good.
So pledge yourselves to fight for those who continue to be killed. On that day and the next Sunday, rally at your local Catholic, Anglican, and United churches and enforce the arrest and confiscation orders against these killers. The real news for Wednesday, April 13, 2022, AP. Multiple U.S. government agencies issued a joint alert warning of the discovery of malicious cyber tools created by unnamed advanced threat actors that they said were capable of gaining full system access to multiple industrial control systems.
They were all stopped.
Charlie Ward, our sources say that French journalists arrived in Ukraine to find the Ukraine military were completely under control. The CIA and FBI were protecting illegal activities of the family. Fox News, Elon Musk taking over Twitter amounts to a declaration of war on a corrupt regime of journalists. In 2012 signed H.R. 4310, which allowed propaganda to be used on U.S. citizens by its own government. This essentially repealed this.
Okay, those three things there real quick. Elon Musk did try to buy Twitter, and the Twitter board said no. And then another company came in and bought more shares of Twitter than Musk had. So Musk is no longer the majority owner of Twitter, and he has plan B, which seems to be he's just going to dump his shares and try to devalue the company and then come back and try to rebuy it. So there's a kernel of truth in that Musk did try to buy it. He wasn't trying to buy it to be able to promote journalists. He was doing just the opposite. Actually, he's trying to buy it to promote communication, just a total freedom of speech. He talked about having Trump back on there, about not banning anything. And so it wasn't, it's misleading.
Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, which banned the use of domestic propaganda. The epic failure of CNN Plus is a sight to behold as big cuts loom. John J. Durham, director of the Transnational Joint Task Force.
Okay, that's not true. CNN Plus is doing pretty good. I wish it wasn't, because I would like to see more news available to people. I don't think you should have to pay to get your news. But that's how CNN is, and MSNBC, and they're all setting up streaming channels that you have to pay for. And a lot of hard news ends up on there because they end up going to personalities for what they call open news. And go ahead.
Vulcan, which specialized in MS-13 and RICO investigations, has announced a 15-count indictment against MS-13 members. Kash Patel, the global initiative, is basically a slush fund so they could fly around the world and do whatever they want, whenever they wanted, by saying, "We're raising money for Bill Gates and all these other rich bazillionaires, these guys that hobnobbed with Jeffrey Epstein, by the way. Candace Owens, how is Hunter not in prison based on what's been put in his laptop?"
Okay. They slipped up there. It shows it's Russian, all right? Because Trump asked Putin for anything they had, especially on the laptop, okay? And listen real close to what he says. Candace Owens, why hasn't Hunter Biden been arrested for what was put on his laptop? Listen real close.
Director of the Transnational Joint Task Force Vulcan, which specialized in MS-13 and RICO investigations, has announced a 15-count indictment against MS-13 members. Kash Patel, the global initiative, is basically a slush fund so they could fly around the world and do whatever they want, whenever they wanted, by saying, "We're raising money for Bill Gates and all these other rich bazillionaires, these guys that hobnobbed with Jeffrey Epstein, by the way. Candace Owens, how is Hunter not in prison based on what's been put in his laptop?"
What's been put in his laptop. Not what was on his laptop, by what was put on his laptop.
International child sex trafficking, 16 missing children recovered in operation, sex trafficking allegations uncovered. Mother Teresa was the largest child trafficker on the planet. She sold children and babies.
Again, the Russian Orthodox Church, especially Putin's head of the Russian Orthodox Church, incredibly rich, which goes against, anyway, he is really anti-Catholic. And by going after Mother Teresa, and if you're young enough, you don't know who Mother Teresa is, please just do a quick Google, because it would be too lengthy if I started defining all of this. And by the way, when it is a programmed voice, everything is typed, everything is written out. So it's not like the speaker misspoke when he said, by the way, Candace Owens, why isn't Hunter Biden in prison for what was put on his laptop? It's not like Joe Biden, who, he says, I'm Joe Biden, he slips up. It's different when it's artificial intelligence, when it's computer programmed, when there is a script.
To the elite and funneled between $50 to $100 million a year to the Vatican, as thousands of child migrants.
Somewhere between $50 and $100 million a year.
Go missing in Australia. Judy note, over 1 million children have been rescued out of dumb underground tunnels in Australia.
And see, they're telling these people this here because they know there's no way in hell anybody that's in the United States watching this is targeted for the United States and Canada. There's no way that anybody watching this is going to check and see if they're telling the truth about what's going on in Australia. And most of them wouldn't have any idea how to do it if they wanted to.
Considered home of the Glow Alliance's largest find in the world of tortured children. Human traffickers at the border using teens as mules. Global financial crisis. Fox News, this is the highest that we have seen since January of 1982. Over a 40-year high for consumer prices. Fiat US dollar, you can't keep printing infinite money and handing it out to your buddies at BlackRock and not expect massive increase in prices for working class people and families.
BlackRock is a hedge fund with many Trump advisors participating, and probably Putin. So this is Joe Biden's not involved with BlackRock, and we're not printing money hand over fist. Okay, it's just part of the con.
By Russia-Ukraine war, the BBC openly that the massacre at the train station in Kramatorsk was committed by.
Not true again. Not true at all. Russia took a BBC report, and this is another reason I know this is Russian. Russia took a BBC report and didn't have any audio behind it. So if anybody did speak English that saw it, they wouldn't know what they were saying unless they could lip read. Okay? And they put absolute garbage subtitles saying that Ukraine was actually killing all the Ukrainians. All right. Now, the good side of not the good side, but the opposite side of this is reports we're getting on the ground right now is there are a lot of Russian soldiers that don't want to be where they're at. And those that have been there for a while are quitting and walking away. That's not to say that there's not a massive fighting force there. It's just they are not as highly motivated as the Ukrainian force.
By Ukraine. Ukrainian citizens complain on Facebook that atrocities in Ukraine are caused by the Ukrainian army, not the Russians. The Ukrainian.
I told you about a week ago. It's the lies no longer Trump won the election. Okay. There are a few hangers on, but everybody's starting to see through that. All right. Those of us that, anyway, even the most diehard are starting to see through that. Rudy Giuliani turned over all of his electronics. He gave them all the stuff. He unlocked it and said, here, we did it. Okay, but you're going to see from all this that Trump's the one that was driving all this. So the big lie now is Russia is the good guys. And you're going to hear that start to permeate because Fox is going to tell those people that only watch Fox, and those that don't only watch Fox, only watch these things, or Newsmax, or Alex Jones, or some other absolute outlandish garbage. Okay?
The Ukrainian army is killing our own citizens. French journalists report that the Ukraine military was completely under control. Servicemen of the 36th Marine Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine recorded a new video about the situation.
Stuff we love.
Okay, I know it's getting old for you all. It's getting real old for me. But just takes a couple of seconds here, and then we can get right back to it. And this time I am going to remember to take you all back. And we'll have another little segment here.
The food we continue to defend.
By the way, for those of you that are questioning inflation, this weekend, don't be surprised if there's not much of anything in the store, in the produce department. The Texas governor cut off the border. We talked about this last night. We showed video. We showed video of incredibly angry Texan man, former Trump guy, who he's now pissed at the entire Republican Party, not just Trump. But we showed you all that, and today we find out that $150 million worth of food was left to rot in those trucks, in those lines by that governor. And this weekend, you're going to find in the produce section of many stores, you're not going to find a lot of fruits. You're not going to find a lot of vegetables. Over 50% of our fresh produce and fruits comes from Mexico because of what originally was the NAFTA-CAFTA deal, to where we're dividing all of America up, and Canada's producing this and Mexico's producing that. We're shipping all of our factory jobs to Canada and to Mexico. If you're old enough, you remember all of that. Well, here's a consequence of that. We don't grow our own stuff anymore. We don't make our own stuff anymore. No matter what Joe Biden says or what Trump said, we don't have enough of our own food supplies. We have the capacity, but we've been buying into the propaganda of, everything's fine, everything's great, we're the greatest country in the world, nothing could ever happen here. We're about to, it's getting real close to an SHTF. The supply line is so stretched and so bared thin, that a snap and a whole domino effect takes place all around the world. All right. We're in a global economy now. And one little thing like an asshat governor of Texas over a 4-day period can literally translate into a major food shortage, not only here, but our neighbors to the north as well.
Increase in prices for working class people and families. A Russia-Ukraine war. The BBC states openly that the massacre at the train station in Kramatorsk was committed by Ukraine. Ukrainian citizens complain on Facebook that atrocities in Ukraine are caused by the Ukrainian army, not the Russians. The Ukrainian army is killing our own citizens.
Third time.
French journalists report that the Ukraine military was completely under control. Servicemen of the 36th Marine Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine recorded a new video about the situation in Mariupol, in which they said that they were not receiving ammunition and food. We continue to defend.
And then the next
But the
day,
reality is that
what
the
we
city
showed
was
you
in
last night.
blockade, in the ring. And there is no delivery of ammunition and food, complained representatives of the brigade. Creepy stories from Mariupol, Ukraine. A resident of the city told how the Nazis did not let civilians out of the basements and hammered the doors with nails, turning the apartments into combat positions.
Yeah, that's exactly
Russian
right.
Special Forces.
That's exactly right. That's what the Russians did. Call your enemy the most evil thing, you dehumanize them. And in the eyes of Russia, in the eyes of Europe, in the eyes of most civilized society, calling somebody a Nazi is about as bad as it gets. Okay?
Forces from the Chechen Republic continue to clean up the residential areas of Mariupol from the Nazis. The CIA has finally admitted to having military personnel in Ukraine and training groups and soldiers in Ukraine Nazis for war against Russia and for creating proxy wars with East Ukraine sectors over the past 8 years. As Russia was planning to release the documents and footage of CIA training facilities and training operations through Ukraine, the Pentagon panicked and released the story first, portraying the CIA as heroes training Ukraine military forces.
Oh yeah, all that's true. We trained. It wasn't just the CIA. It was U.S. military we've been training them since Russia invaded the first time in 2014. There's a legitimate reason we've been training them in hopes that they wouldn't get invaded again. So all that's true and all of it's positive despite how they're portraying it. And people that only see stuff like this and only look at Fox have no idea what is true. The only truth they have, and this is why they're so adamant, this is why they're so passionate, it's because it is their belief to the bone that everything they've been told, that the big con jobs they've been fed and keep getting fed are true, when in fact it's just the opposite.
What isn't told in the CIA released documents is that the CIA had been training Ukrainian West Nazi forces since 1950 and covered up the extractions of the Nazis' leaders in West Ukraine who never faced war crimes or Nuremberg trials, and was deliberately silenced from the Nuremberg trials from talking about the West Ukraine finance-backed German Hitler, Prescott Bush, and Rockefellers. A message from the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, to all the nations of the...
You notice he ties the Bush family in there, Prescott Bush. And the Bush family represents the rhinos, okay? Republicans in name only. Anybody that's not a Trumper is a rhino. We showed you that video the other night. So Prescott Bush represents the established Republicans. And there are established Republicans, there are Trump people, and there are those that put their heads up Trump's ass and wear it like a hat when he's around, and then hope somebody puts him in jail so they don't have to deal with him. And that's just straight up fact.
The world, dear citizens of our wonderful planet Earth. I, the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, decided to address all of you directly.
All right. Vladimir Putin decides to address the world. Vladimir Putin decides he's going to address the world, and he's going to do so through the QAnon platform.
Ukrainian West Nazi forces since 1950 and covered up the extractions of the Nazis' leaders in West Ukraine who never faced war crimes or Nuremberg trials. And was
We did take a lot of Nazi scientists out, including Ukrainian. We didn't take Nazi military out, including Ukrainian.
Deliberately silenced from the Nuremberg trials from talking about the West Ukraine finance-backed German Hitler, Prescott Bush, and Rockefellers. A message from the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, to all the nations of the world, dear citizens of our wonderful planet Earth. I, the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, decided to address all of you directly. bypassing diplomats, your rulers and journalists. In Russia, there is such a thing as the time of surrender, where you cannot lie, deceive and
Okay. Are you seeing that this is Russian artificial intelligence generated to take advantage of the weak-minded, disillusioned, the people that they have targeted and on the far right and have successfully indoctrinated? If you don't see that yet,
play. That's why I'm going to be honest so everyone can check the truth of my words. Russia is a great and rich country. The main value is more than 150 peoples who live on a territory where justice is above all. We don't need new territories. We have plenty of energy and all other resources. Since the time of the Great Tartaria and the Great Mogul, the peoples of Northern European have evolved not because of looting and the Crusade Wars and colonization of America, Africa, India, drug addiction in China, but thanks to their hard work and peacekeeping. Those who know Russian understand that Russian is an adjective for all the peoples of our country. Russian Slovenians, Russian Tatars, Russian Jews, Russian Ivankas, and so on are Russians in the soul, although their culture, language, lifestyle may differ. We salute this diversity of unity. Once again, the Russian people of Russia are forced to sacrifice their lives, protecting the world from Nazism and fascism. We exchanged 50 of our prisoners of war for 50 Ukrainian soldiers. Ukrainian soldiers received medical assistance in our hospitals.
Who else would be doing this? Who else would be doing this? It's all been Russian propaganda from the start to divide the country and to push Trump. And it worked once. And it almost cost us a civil war. And nobody's talking about it. And unless we start talking about it, it's going to come up and bite us in the ass. Maybe tomorrow at churches all across Canada and somewhere in the United States. Maybe on Easter Sunday, because he said go on April 15th and the next Sunday, which is Easter Sunday when the churches are packed. Okay? CME. Christmas, Mother's Day, Easter. The big three in the church world.
3 large meals a day and returned home.
Oh, you got to hear this.
Even the Nazis did during the last war.
I apologize because ad coming up. All right. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to get through this ad and then back it up here just a second. And we will replay this. What Putin says to the QAnon people, for those that are just joining us, Vladimir Putin has chosen, and it's artificial intelligence Russian propaganda, but is being played out as Vladimir Putin has decided he's going to bypass the media and the journalists and the politicians and going to talk directly to QAnon. And I bet they're
sacrifice their lives, protecting the world.
Okay. Back up just a couple of seconds more, and here we go.
Russian Slovenians, Russian Tatars, Russian Jews, Russian Ivankas, and so on.
By the way, the word is Russian Tartars. Taters. Tartars. They're a Muslim community in Crimea that have been tortured and belittled and attempted to be eliminated by Russia. They're not beloved as is being said, And it's just, again, another example of artificial intelligence scripted, and people buy it.
Are Russians in the soul, although their culture, language, lifestyle may differ. We salute this diversity of unity. Once again, the Russian people of Russia are forced to sacrifice their lives, protecting the world from Nazism and fascism. We exchanged 50 of our prisoners of war for 50 Ukrainian soldiers. Ukrainian soldiers received medical assistance in our hospitals, ate 3 large meals a day and returned home.
If you watch this show, you know that's BS. They shaved the women's heads. Many of them were beaten. Not just the women, but many of the prisoners, regardless, were beaten. We get the pictures, we got the videos. But if all people are watching, the people that only watch this kind of stuff, they don't know that none of this is real.
Not even the Nazis did this during the last war. We will present these evidence in a future court. Shame on anyone who supports these scoundrels now. Your rulers in the United States, Europe, Japan, Australia and other countries have stood on the side of these subhumans, who have put civilians,
subhumans, okay? Ukrainians are subhumans.
Pregnant women and children in front of them, which is not enough to keep prices in your countries low. Prices are rising, the world is collapsing, but not because the Russians are cleansing Europe of Nazis' evil spirits, but because you don't watch and actually support a new wave of Nazism. This time we are not going to Berlin. We will stand on our historical borders, and all the Nazis' evil spirits, to whom your rulers wide open, will arrange a new crystal life, as the Nazis did, adding reproductive organs circumcised. I appeal to all who want to live and work in peace, to raise children and to be friends with the nations of the world. Help Russia fight the new cancer, Ukrainian Nazism. Not Ukraine where peaceful and...
What did he just say?
We will stand on our historical borders, and all the Nazis' evil spirits, to whom your rulers wide open, will arrange a new crystal life, as the Nazis did, adding reproductive organs circumcised. I appeal to all who want to live and work in peace, to raise children and to be friends with the nations of the world. Help Russia fight the new cancer, Ukrainian...
Help Russia fight the new cancer, Ukrainian Nazism. If you don't think this is pro-Russian, I don't get off my channel. I'm sorry. This is a channel for smart people.
Nazism. Not Ukraine where peaceful and valuable people live, but Nazism, fed by hawks from the USA and NATO for your taxes. If your rulers support Nazism, chase them out 3 doors, take power into your own hands. Ukrainian...
Okay, this is where we're getting into the dangerous stuff. All right. And if you think, well, you know, there's nobody that just, you know, watches this kind of stuff. This is old Chuck Grassley, Iowa Republican congressman, having a town hall. We'll get back to our video in just a moment.
Sure that there wasn't German warfare. It's my understanding.
I think it's a little deeper than that.
Okay. So I can't go any deeper than that. It isn't that I know more than you know. It's just that I don't know any more.
Okay, and then the neo-Nazis and the Nazis that are over there, too, if you know anything about that. That you can say, or you can't say.
No, I can say, it just seems to me an anomaly that a president of that country is Jewish and knowing how the Jews were treated in World War II, that he would say that this Nazism
He's
is
also a Canadian.
but I think he's a very great president. I didn't prove that. No, I can't speak like that. Okay.
Okay, there's a video right before this, and actually, play this too, because that one had the Nazi part in it. He's already got the message that, you know, that Ukrainians are Nazis and Putin's the good guy. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a lot of, Tucker Carlson, a lot of Americans of influence are pushing that. Let's listen to what this guy says now.
On what you know about biolabs, the financing that Putin has stopped over in Ukraine, the neo-Nazis, the Nazis, and the pedophilia that goes on in Ukraine, and Putin's there stopping it, but our news doesn't bring that up. Do you know anything about that?
Well, you mentioned four things, on the pedophile, I don't know whether there's anything special about Ukraine and pedophile. But I do know that human trafficking, and not just sex trafficking, but human trafficking for economic slavery, is it's bad in the United States, but it's worse internationally. And so I suppose that there's some of that in Ukraine, but I can't say that it's worse there than out there. And then what did you bring up about
Biolabs, the financing that's stopped over there, and then the Nazi, neo-Nazis in Ukraine.
Well, the financing hasn't stopped because Congress appropriated $14 billion, 7 for humanity.
Okay, the guy's asking Chuck Grassley about Putin has stopped the financing of what's going on in Ukraine, is what this guy has been told. Okay, can you talk about that financing? Because see, that money was supposed to go to Hunter Biden, and Putin stopped that. Can you talk about that? And Chuck Grassley thinks he's talking about the humanitarian aid United States is giving to Ukraine. There's a little bit of disconnect in this one.
For military. So you maybe you just saw on television that.
No, I don't watch television.
That's the money quote right there. I don't know if you heard it or not.
You just saw on television that.
No, I don't watch television.
No, I don't watch television. One more time. This is the money quote.
On television that.
No, I don't watch television.
So, just one average guy. I'm sure he's the only one that doesn't watch television. I'm being sarcastic, of course, because a lot of them only watch these things, and that's dangerous. And that's why we're spending time doing all this.
Nazis protect themselves from bullets of civilians, their rulers, under the pretext of terrible Russia.
Wait a
Also
minute.
decided
What? Nazis protect themselves from the bullets of civilians?
Organs circumcised. I appeal to all who...
Yeah, I heard that. I want to listen to this. Nazis made people get circumcised?
collapsing, but not because the Russians are cleansing Europe of Nazis' evil spirits, but because you don't watch and actually support a new wave of Nazism. This time we are not going to Berlin. We will stand on our historical borders, and all the Nazis' evil spirits, to whom your rulers wide open, will arrange a new crystal life, as the Nazis did, adding reproductive organs circumcised. I appeal to all who want to live and work in peace, to raise children and to be friends with the nations of the world. Help Russia fight the new cancer, Ukrainian Nazism. Not Ukraine where peaceful and valuable people live, but Nazism, fed by hawks from the USA and NATO for your taxes. If your rulers support Nazism, chase them out 3 doors, take power into your own hands.
If your leaders support Nazism, and he's talking to the Trump people, all right? And Trump has not denounced Putin. If your leaders support, chase them out 3 doors. I'm not sure what the 3 doors, I think that might have been, I'm not sure what that, what that entails. I don't watch enough of this, I guess, to, that might be some kind of code to the Q people. But it's another call for potential violence. It's a dog whistle.
Russia fight the new cancer, Ukrainian Nazism.
Help Russia fight the new cancer. If your leaders support this new cancer, get rid of them.
Nazism. Not Ukraine, where peaceful and valuable people live, but Nazism, fed by hawks from the USA and NATO for your taxes. If your rulers support Nazism, chase them out 3 doors, take power into your own hands.
Chase them out 3 doors, take power into your own hands.
Ukrainian Nazis protect themselves from bullets of civilians. Their rulers, under the pretext of terrible Russia, also decided to transfer the burden of high prices and upcoming troubles to the population. Both in Ukraine and in you, Nazis live well behind the backs of ordinary citizens, and ordinary people should suffer. These are identical crimes in both Ukraine and the West.
No, actually, that's life in Russia.
If we unite, then in another week there will be no Nazis in Ukraine. Normal life will return.
If we unite, okay? He's calling on these people to rise up. If we unite, there won't be a war in a week in Ukraine. The United States will be too focused on what's going on here. If you rise up, that they won't be able, and he's going to end up getting a bunch of people killed. But he doesn't care.
Themselves from bullets of civilians. Their rulers, under the pretext of terrible Russia, also decided to transfer the burden of high prices and upcoming troubles to the population. Both in Ukraine and in you, Nazis live well behind the backs of ordinary citizens, and ordinary people should.
That was supposed to be EU, behind Ukraine and EU, I think, is what the computer was trying to say.
Should suffer. These are identical crimes in both Ukraine and the West. If we unite, then in another week there will be no Nazis in Ukraine. Normal life will return to Europe, the USA and other countries, and together we will judge Ukrainian Nazis and all the rulers who support Nazism in the new tribunal.
Okay. Again, this is supposedly Putin talking to the QAnon people. I'm going to pop over here real quick and say, hey to Sissy. Thanks, Sissy. Thanks for all you do. Nobody's in the chat with you? All right. Well, thank you for all you do. Hop in the chat and say hi to Sissy. It's okay. She doesn't bite. Let me go back and keep going on this.
Our goal is the right one. We will defeat the Nazism. I would like to share this win with everyone together as soon as possible. Our goal is the right one. White hats, Russia war, EU, US-China war, Taiwan. Okay,
this gets kind of worrisome. And again, chances are, people aren't going to act on this, but we just saw a guy, we just reported last night on a guy in Texas who went in and tried to steal an Audi and then claimed he was a federal marshal that had been deputized when Trump declared martial law. We've shown on this show, they brought a new Declaration of Independence to the Capitol steps, and they all signed it. They all believe that there's a new government in effect and has been since last month. The whole point of that trucker convoy was they're going to go to Washington, D.C. and declare the new government. So a small fraction of people believe this, but that's enough of a fraction to be concerned about and to be aware of.
We will defeat the Nazism. I would like to share this win with everyone together as soon as possible. Our goal is the right one. White hats, Russia war, EU, US-China war, Taiwan, US missile nuclear crisis event. If Russian forces move first, then Chinese Communist Party forces will move at the near same week/month time on Taiwan and divide US forces. Russian allegiance in the Middle East will move on countries that are backed by US and EU. India-China border will come into battle. Pakistan, Afghanistan forces will face off with Iran, Russia and China coming into the battle. The Middle East will erupt into battle. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Jordan will launch battalions against one another. Turkey and Kurdish exchanging fire and Russian running airstrikes. Israel hits Syria with missiles. Dozens of Yemeni pro-government fighters have been killed in a new offensive to take a rebel-held city, loyalist sources said on Tuesday, following a surge in violence including missile attacks on the United Arab Emirates.
You notice Putin never said goodbye or anything. It just suddenly transitions over to this guy's now reading legitimate news again, or in some cases.
Iran only weeks away from becoming a nuclear power, U.S. general says Russia turmoil could spill to Middle East. The Army general tapped to take over as top U.S. commander in the Middle East.
Get through this real quick. Okay.
It could create broader instability into the Middle East, including Syria. The Ukrainian war could set off a Middle East war, Balkan war, China-Taiwan war, India-China war, African coups, South American coups. Almost all countries will strike in the moments the U.S. forces are being divided into conflict. This could be only a planned scare event as the military of 30 major nations arrest the deep state in their own countries. The world is connected. K Black Swan event. Buckle up. How do you expose the deep state inside the Pentagon, CIA, UN, NATO, deep state generals, colonials, US and world private military, rogue contractors? Putin knew tens of thousands of US military were in Ukraine illegally training and arming their military and militias. Trump, Xi, Modi, bin Salman, Putin all knew that the deep state military in the US was arming Ukraine, Kazakhstan and training for the ultimate aim to attack and take Russia. This has always been the goal of the Third, now the Fourth Reich, WEF, World Banks, cabal. The deep state several assassination attempts on Putin, Trump, Xi, Modi, bin Salman all failed. Putin knows he is fighting against US forces and high-grade military technology. Putin isn't stupid. He knew he was going into war against the US military. But he also knew this was the deep state-controlled military operations controlled by the same fractions that infiltrated the Russian military, which has now been claimed to the highest degree of any major military force on Earth. You expose the deep state Pentagon, CIA, UN, NATO by bringing them all into the brink of world war, then collapse the Fiat system. L. John J. Durham was director of the Transnational Joint Task Force Vulcan, which specialized in MS-13 and RICO investigations. Charges in a 15-count indictment against the MS-13 members has been announced by U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Texas Britt Featherston. Along with FBI Houston SAC James Smith, Homeland Security Investigations Houston SAC Mark Dawson, and Joint Task Force Vulcan Director, JTFV, John J. Durham. Joint Task Force Vulcan, JTFV, was created in August 2019 as a whole-of-government approach to dismantle transnational criminal organizations, such as MS-13. Since its creation, JTFV has successfully increased coordination and collaboration with foreign law enforcement partners, including El Salvador, Mexico, Honduras and Guatemala, designating priority MS-13 programs, cliques and leaders, who have the most impact on the United States, for targeted prosecutions, and coordinating significant MS-13 indictments in U.S. attorneys' offices across the country, including the first use of national security charges against MS-13 leaders, such as the Ronfla Nacional, in El Salvador.
Okay, sorry about that.
JTFV has been comprised of members from U.S. attorneys' offices across the country, including EDTX, the Eastern District of New York, the Southern District of New York, the District of New Jersey, the Northern District of Ohio, the District of Utah, the Eastern District of Virginia, the District of Massachusetts, the District of Alaska, the Southern District of Florida, the Southern District of California, the District of Nevada, and the District of Columbia, as well as the Department of Justice's National Security Division and the Criminal Division. In addition, all Department of Justice law enforcement agencies are involved in the effort, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco.
See, it's real easy. They're talking about all these people, all these same organizations he's talking about now are doing good things. Just a few minutes ago, he was saying they were all infiltrated by deep space or by the Nazis and
firearms and explosives, the U.S. Marshal Service, and the Bureau of Prisons. In addition, Homeland Security Investigations also plays a critical role in JTFV. The last card, Dr. Werner von Braun. Dr. Werner von Braun was a Nazi who helped create NASA and was part of Project Paperclip. The real story of Project Paperclip differs from the Google and mainstream place deep state cover-up story. Nazis were already in the US before the wars and before Hitler. That's why Prescott Bush, Wall Street and the UK crowd-funded Hitler and his regime. Hitler's Third Reich turned into the Fourth Reich, current regime, Operation Paperclip, NASA, CIA, FBI, the infiltration of the US and all branches of government and military connected to the military-industrial complex. Rothschild, Rockefellers and many extended families of the known Davos group today who control Europe, UN and NATO are all part of the deep state cabal, who created Operation Paperclip and brought over Nazis into the US. Dr. Werner von Braun was one of them. Before his death, von Braun declassified information. In 1974, Dr. Carol Rosin was warned by Dr. Werner von Braun about a series of events that will happen in the near future, all of which will be based on lies. The last card that remains is an extraterrestrial invasion. Dr. Rosin warned us about the weaponization of space through her professional relationship with ex-Nazi scientists, Dr. Werner von Braun.
Extraterrestrial invasion.
Von Braun confided to Rosin about the external threats that would be created as a false flag by the United States government. 9/11 was an inside job. On September 10, Rumsfeld said 2.3 trillion was missing and couldn't be accounted for. Hours later, 9/11 happened and the Pentagon was supposedly hit by an airplane. The most secure place in the world, the Pentagon, was attacked, but not one video emerged. Over 22,000 video cameras are around the Pentagon in and outside monitoring the building, but not one video of an airplane crashing into the Pentagon was shown. The part of the Pentagon that was attacked contained all the data and servers that was tracking and recorded a missing $2.30 trillion.
$2.30 trillion. I'm going to repeat that again.
And all was destroyed. 2 days later, the Bush administration had $2.50 trillions to start a war.
So, we won't probably ever do that again. Go through a complete QAnon video, but in all honesty, I wanted to make sure we had that one documented in its entirety, because sometimes, especially ones like this, they're not up very long. They're maybe a day, maybe 2 days, and then they're taken down. There are, let me just give you a sample here. I'll just pull up the home page and see. Well, you can see that we're there live. Restored Republic update. That's a QAnon site. The revenge is inevitable. It has begun. Actually, there aren't many on here at the moment. Barack Obama was executed for treason. Emergency alert messages, good news. See, the average person, you're going to say Barack Obama's executed for treason. I'm not, that's asinine. 30,000 people watched it. And his next message comes up at 10:45 a.m. tomorrow, and they're already waiting for that one. Judy Byington is one of this name here. She's one of the people behind this. There's a few names that I'm giving to authorities, to be honest with you, just so if something does happen tomorrow or in the coming days, they have a direction to look. We're going to transition. So that just gives you an idea. And oh my gosh, let's run through the news real fast, or as fast as possible, and just some of it. Somebody asked last night, after I had shown, about what was happening in Shanghai, what happens to people that don't want or refuse to take a test. Sorry. What happens to people that don't want to take a test? You'll see this woman right here. Comes and basically smacks her in the face, takes her to the ground. See, throw the wooden stick away. And somebody said, oh, maybe they're about killing the people's pets. I got videos that I haven't and I'm not going to show. They're not doing it, they say, well, they're killing them, so they don't starve. No, they're not killing them so they don't starve to death. Something else is going on because they brutalize these animals. I got a video of a guy taking a shovel and repeating, going like this, cutting the head off of a corgi. This is what it looks like inside one of the what it looks like inside one of the containment centers. Not a lot of treatment going on. Looks more like, waiting on people to die. Here's another containment center, just so that we got more than one source.
At this COVID-19 quarantine facility in the Chinese city of Shanghai, people lie in rows of camp beds, separated by less than an arm's length. Their suitcases and other belongings strewn next to them.
Something is going on. This is not how you isolate people in a virus or from a virus or with a virus. They've been on lockdown, okay? And yet their virus increase is supposedly 25 to 27,000 people a day. How's that possible when they're on lockdown? And why are they being held like this? Because that's just going to keep regenerating and regenerating and regenerating. No treatments, nothing other than packing them in. Something else is going on.
In footage provided to Reuters on Thursday by an occupant, the facility showed more than 100 people who had tested positive for COVID-19 crammed on the floor of what looked like an office building. It is one of the dozens of places in the city. Quarantine facility in the Chinese city. Doubling down on the policy, converting schools, recently finished apartment blocks and exhibition halls into quarantine centers, the largest of which can hold 50,000 people.
据了解，
State broadcaster CCTV released footage of various makeshift COVID-19 hospitals.
Okay, these are what's going on official television, okay? And this is what United States TV is going to be showing you too, not what we've shown you before in this video and in the video before that.
Staying in rows of grey beds. Authorities said last week they had set up more than 60 facilities, but the conditions vary widely, and some have drawn howls of criticism from the public. Other video clips on social media have shown an empty factory with chem beds installed and another site made out of shipping containers. Reuters verified the video of the factory, but not the containers. To get out of quarantine, people have to produce 2 consecutive negative PCR tests. The Shanghai government did not immediately respond to a request for comment about conditions at the facilities.
So that's what's really going on as far as what we know. Again, there's speculation that something's happening with this bird flu getting into humans, and they're concerned about getting into animals, and that's why they're killing all the pets and small animals. I'm going to get into the bird flu a little bit more tomorrow. You know, there have been several oddities. I pointed out somebody had found that if you added up the dates of the start of the First World War, Second World War, and February 24, 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine for the second time, they all added up to the same number. April 14th, 2012, the Titanic sinks, a tragedy for the entire world. April 14th, 2022, the Russian warship Moskva sinks and the world rejoices. We reported about that last night. Get you full screen here, hopefully. And we see that Russia's Special Flight Squadron was very active last night. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 outgoing, and 1 that had come from the area near where Putin's suspected private bunker is, came up and then made a westbound or an eastbound turn in this situation, turned to the right. And then once they got past Kazan, all the transponders went off. So we don't know exactly where they went, but there was a bug out last night. And then today, escalation of talk about using a tactical or low yield nuclear weapon. Like, you know, it's trying to minimize. A nuclear weapon's a nuclear weapon. And we're going to get there. And I've said it from the beginning, and I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong about a lot of things, but it's just not what I see. Also, it is officially the 15th day of April in North Korea, in Russia, in Ukraine. And the 15th day of April is the day of the sun. It's tax day here, and I've got to get my taxes done. It is the day of the sun in North Korea. And they began with a midnight military parade, helicopters and smoke and flares, and they're going to be celebrating all through the day. Don't be surprised if there's not either a nuclear test of a nuclear warhead, a sizable nuclear warhead, or if there aren't other missile launches, ICBM tests. They've already tested the rocket successfully. They have not tested a warhead big enough to fit on it yet. And that could be what happens tomorrow. Couldn't believe it when I saw this. unvaccinateddated.com, unvaccinated.com, pure blood, pure love, a dating site for the unvaccinated. Chris and I have talked on here quite often about the Wagner Group or the Wagner Group. They've now been implicated in the Mali massacre. Chris said that that was probably the case. And Mali massacre survivors say white mercenaries involved in the killings. It was a market day in a town when troops backed by white mercenaries descended in helicopters and basically massacred many people. Talked about 1984 and found this. A guy in Russia, he was handing out free copies of 1984 and was arrested for, he was charged with discrediting Russia's military. And it's actually, you would have had to read the book to have an idea that it might be describing Russia. Russians released a video of American Joseph Ward. Pardon me. This is one reason the government didn't want U.S. military, former U.S. military personnel over there, because the guy got captured and now it's being used as Russian propaganda.
Американских спецслужб, которые у нас, получается, работают на территории Донбасса, занимаются уничтожением мирного населения. Еще какие-то претензии у кого-то к нам. Вот люди, которые готовы воевать до последнего украинца. Ну, все они здесь находят, пьют.
Okay. He's reported captured by the Chechens in the Luhansk region. There's two groups of Chechens. There's good Chechens and there are bad Chechens. There's Chechens fighting on the Russian side and the Chechens fighting on the Ukrainian side. So that can get a little confusing sometimes. But his whereabouts and proof of life have not yet been established. So they do have his passport, but they haven't said whether he's alive or prisoner or not. Now, I left this up, even though it's been a while. The Russian Navy cruiser Moskov, the Moskov is that's Russian for Moscow. It's named after the capital of Russia. Sank while being towed in a storm. Pardon me. Sank while being towed in a storm, according to Russian Minister of Defense. Now, they put out earlier, Russian television, RT put out earlier that it had intentionally been sunk because it was at the end of its serviceability. And that was so laughable that they had to, they had to eventually take that down. That was like, no, this is kind of too much. So the official story is that it was being towed in a storm, and that's what sunk it. It wasn't hit by Ukrainian missiles, according to Russia. It blew up from a fire with ammunition on board. That's not what happened. Ukraine hit it with two Neptune missiles, and that'll be confirmed eventually. But we've got it from the ground. This is our "Don't Be a Doofus" moment of the day.
What'd you say? What'd you say?
The old one. 87, 89, 91. With the new gas.
Do you think that that's the year that the gas was from?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
The old one. 87, 89, 91. With the new gas.
Do you think that that's the year that the gas was from?
Yeah.
Okay. For those that may not know, that is not the year the gas was from. The gas was not made in 1987, 1989, or 1993. That is the octane, or the amount of gasoline that's actually in it compared to the additives. And this is one of the reasons that we spent so much time earlier with the QAnon thing. Michael Jensen, Michael's a mathematician, and he started what he thought would be a quick exercise to confirm the narrative that the January 6th defendants were just ordinary people with few links to extremist groups or movements. Okay, he began work on a network, which is what we see right over here, and now I no longer find the narrative convincing. There are a lot of connections, and this is why I think this is why I pay attention to QAnon and warn you when I see something that I think merits it. This is QAnon right here. These are white supremacist nationalists. These are the Proud Boys. These are the 3%ers, and these are the Oath Keepers. Then this is sovereign citizens. Okay, let's make it. See if I can make this bigger without. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, it's not going to go any bigger than that. Okay. But you can see all the various connections. Some are just connected to QAnon. Quite a bit were just connected to QAnon. Then it shows the connections between various individuals, and some of them get pretty tangled. Some of them get pretty tangled. So these are like connections within each other and within other groups. And you can see a lot of interconnectivity. So while the message is going out to QAnon alone, it's being disseminated into other groups, possibly. I don't, I've got to think the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. I don't know about Proud Boys. The Oath Keepers and the 3%ers. I don't know about the Proud Boys. I'm thinking most of those guys are probably, they've probably become either very apolitical, and meaning I'm not going anywhere near any of them lying sons of bitches again, or they are becoming radical. My hope is apolitical. Unearthed record show Matt Mowers, a Trump aide running for Congress in New Hampshire, voted twice from two different states. Republicans are calling him to drop out. Quote, "We cannot have a candidate in our Republican primary who's a poster boy for election fraud," per AP. Accuse your enemy of that which you are guilty. Rules of propaganda. Constantly saying there was massive voter fraud. The only voter fraud we've seen has all been from Republicans. The Trump-endorsed candidate for governor of Nebraska, Charles Herbster, has been accused by 8 women of groping, including teenagers. The indictment includes reaching up women's skirts in public and forcibly kissing them. One of the women is a Republican state senator. Now, when asked about this, Herbster said, "Well, I wonder if any of them can tell me what they were wearing when they say this happened." I don't. And actually, the Republican state senator said, "Yes, I can," when asked about it. So, I don't know. Yeah, I do know, but just something to think about. Putin's head of the military has had his second massive heart attack in about 2 weeks. And according to some, it wasn't a natural heart attack. So that's kind of word on the ground is that he's probably not going to be around long. Putin also got rid of 100 of top military people again today. So he's purging. He's expecting somebody to try to kill him. He's expecting somebody to try to overthrow him. And anybody close to him is getting either arrested or heart attacked. And as far as
language and how to connect with the masses, and then went on.
As far as actual Nazis, this is Tennessee State Senator Frank Nicely. Let's see what he's got about homelessness.
For 2 years, Hitler lived on the streets and practiced his oratory and his body language and how to connect with the masses, and then went on to lead a life that got him in the history books. So
can't make this stuff up. They're pretty blatant about their admiration for fascists, but yet. And finally, I think it's fine. It's not. No, it's not. Finally, it's just switching topics.
People's lives, but I think, given the science.
Okay, this is real life versus the movie Don't Look Up. The movie Don't Look Up, I had to look it up because I haven't seen it. It's about it's a movie about scientists who discover a meteorite or an asteroid is coming towards Earth, and people just don't have a concept of what that actually means. Okay, there is a portion of Antarctica, the South Pole. There's a portion of the ice shelf that could be falling off. All right. It's a big enough portion that it could potentially lead with the glacier that's behind it, because once the ice shelf falls off, then the glacier moves. The ice shelf keeps glaciers from moving. Okay. And the ice shelf sticks out over the water. The glacier moves across the land. Once the ice shelf breaks off, the glacier can move and will go into the ocean as well. If that were to happen, and again, it was 73 degrees Fahrenheit at the South Pole earlier in last month. It's still very warm down there. It's because of tropical airflows. The warmer the air is, the more moisture the air can hold. And these warm, moist airflows, that's what's keeping our weather here in the United States. I don't know if you noticed or not, but for like the last 4 weeks, every Wednesday, there's a storm in the middle of the country. It's because of the way the wind is taking warm, moist air all around the world. And it's having an effect on the South Pole. If the ice that is potential to drop, if it does, then sea levels are going to rise 20 feet. Okay. If the whole thing went, sea level would rise 200 feet. That's how much ice is down there. Think about a glass of water. You drop an ice cube in it. What happens? The water goes whoosh, okay? And then it comes back, and then the water level rises a little bit because of the volume of the ice cube, okay? Well, if something crashes, it's going to create a tsunami to begin with, more than likely. And if the whole thing were to melt, sea level would rise 200 feet. If it rises just 20 feet, most islands are going to disappear. Most coastlines are going to disappear. Many major big cities would disappear. All right. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I hope it never happens. But scientists are telling us that The ocean has already risen, and this is just from ice that is broken off from the North Pole. If the South Pole gets involved, things get real serious real fast, okay? The story, that's a long setup for this 38-second clip, but this is a real life scientist, climatologist. The word escaped me there for a minute. This is a climatologist in real life, and the way it plays out in the movie and the way it plays out in real life is I felt a good way of demonstrating how people that don't know sometimes ignorance is bliss. Sometimes if you don't know what's coming, then you're not going to be prepared. So there are two ways to look at it.
Many people would agree that we have to wean ourselves off oil, but at the same time, they deeply resent having their personal lives massively interrupted.
How big is this thing? Could it like destroy someone's house? Is that possible?
I don't think any of us want to be disrupting people's lives, but I think given the science and the things that academics are saying about what oil is causing around the world and in this country too, this is...
Okay, this is about oil, not about the Antarctic. That was me personally, because I'm following it. This is about trying to get off of oil, brought up because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
It's the level of action that needs to be taken.
It's somewhere between 6 and 9 kilometers across, so it's big. It would damage the entire planet, not just a house.
I wonder if any of you have read the latest IPCC reports that have come out this year. You know, what they have said is that we are on the road for climate catastrophe.
Well, as it's damaging, will it hit this one house in particular that's right on the coast of New Jersey? It's my ex-wife's house. I need it to be hit.
The clothes that you're wearing, to some extent, owe their existence to oil because they were taken in a car or a truck or a van to a shop, you know?
I'm sorry, are we not being clear?
We're talking about crop failure by 2030. We're talking about people in this country right now in fuel poverty because of the prices of oil. And you're talking about the clothes that I'm wearing.
No.
We're trying to tell you that the entire planet is about to be destroyed.
Well, and for those who are planning to get away over the Easter holidays, could they expect more disruption, do you think?
There's something we do around here. You know, we just keep the bad news light.
This is why I don't have millions of viewers. People don't want to see the truth. People want to see what makes them comfortable. That's why the people that watch Fox, because they're comfortable with that totalitarian white supremacist message. People that watch only MSNBC is because they're comfortable with that, with the message they get there. Okay. People aren't comfortable with the truth. And that's why I respect you all so much. Those of you that are still watching now, this episode, and those that have been watching so long, I totally respect it. And that's why I say, I know I only have smart people watching. Oh, this, earlier today, and I haven't even talked much about the Russian-Ukraine conflict. Sorry, I got a message, and this late I wanted to make sure it wasn't an emergency. A large portion of Ukraine was bombed earlier tonight, and it was at night during. It was at night Ukraine time. Kyiv was bombed. Kherson's bombed. Kharkiv was bombed. Kharkiv has been bombed throughout the day today. almost steady bombardment throughout the day. And so tomorrow we will have bomb damage assessments. We will know the BDA. We will know the damage done. We don't at the moment. During the dark, it's about 6 o'clock in the morning over there. So when I get done here in a few minutes, I'll start compiling things for tomorrow's show or shows. But this is what happened in Gorky Park, a beautiful park in Kharkiv. So that's just in one park. And obviously that wasn't a military asset. That was a place people go for relaxation and if you really want to know, and if you still have any doubt about how Republicans feel about black people, okay, yeah, you can, yeah, there's Candace Owens, there's Judge Clarence Thomas, there are some black Republicans. The Rock, I guess, might be a Republican, but they're not Republicans. They are there so that there's an excuse to say, we're not white supremacists. See, we've got a white friend. This was at a, and it's not all Republicans, okay? It's not all Republicans, but Republicans that aren't that way, you better clean house. Or you better come out and say, like the one guy from Florida said in 2018, this ain't me. I don't believe any of this stuff, and I'm not going to say stuff I don't believe just to get elected. This was in Nevada, I believe. Let me check down here. Okay, actually, I'm not going to show that because I did not write down where it was from, what state it was from. But I'll tell you what, I'll play it and I'll tell you tomorrow. I think it was from the Nevada. It was either Colorado or Nevada, a Republican County Party event. Put up firearm safety for black people. Okay. Always shoot the gun right side up. Always lick the chicken grease off your fingers before shooting. Always make sure there's a white person around so you have someone to blame for everything that goes wrong in life. And always aim for small children to ensure you actually hit another gang member. Again, I apologize for not having the source, but it was a state Republican Party event. Just in case you wondered, the women of Ukraine are badasses. If you watched last night's episode all the way to the end, you saw the message the women of Ukraine sent to Russia. Yeah. I reached out to Scott and said, what's happening down there? The degree to which Texas business interests are angry with Governor Greg Abbott cannot be overstated. Dan Patrick's the lieutenant governor, and he was, he's the Don't Say Gay and the Disney groomer, and he was, doing all that stuff. But that doesn't matter. In Texas, none of that stuff matters. The governor's messing with the money people down there, Toyota, HEB, GM, and he doesn't care about the regular people that are going to be hurt by $150 million of food not being able to get across the border. He cares about messing with Joe Biden. But Toyota, GM, they want their products. Okay, if the materials to assemble are stuck in a truck on the other side of the border, that means layoffs. That means, a breakdown of the supply chain. It's not just food. When a church starts chanting, "Let's go, Brandon," shouldn't they be taxed? No, they should not be called a church. And in case you don't know, this is our final story. In case you don't know, the phrase "Let's go, Brandon" refers to a viral video of a NASCAR racer, and in the crowd behind him, they were chanting "Fuck Joe Biden." The NBC reporter was claiming the chant is "Let's go, Brandon." The driver's name's Brandon. NBC reporter said they're chanting "Let's go, Brandon," and the crowd was clearly chanting "Fuck Joe Biden." So "Let's go, Brandon" became code for. So yeah, if a church is let's make sure we get it exactly right. If a church starts chanting "Let's go, Brandon," that should tell you a lot about that church. There's no that's not a church. A church is a worship center. It's supposed to be a spiritually holy place with an altar. And as we are now officially, it's now midnight. It's now 4:15, 2022. It's 12:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is officially Good Friday where I'm at now, and imagining a church chanting "Let's go, Brandon," which they know it means "Fuck Joe Biden." I don't know. Should give us all something to think about. I would hope. And we'll be back tomorrow with more stories, more news. We'll follow up on some of the stories we talked about tonight. And I thank you all very much. Those of you that have stuck around all the way to the end. Here's a little long one, but again, I just felt like it's necessary that we went through that, as tedious as it is at times, through that one entire QAnon video, just from start to finish, so that everything is documented. And thanks for hanging with me. Again, I'm going to start getting ready for tomorrow, either show or shows. I may not have a show tomorrow night. I may have one in the afternoon and then take tomorrow night off, just depending on how things go. There are going to be people that ask, so I'll go ahead and put it out there. I didn't say anything about the Grand Rapids, Michigan shooting, because at the moment I'm trying to get a contact in Grand Rapids. I don't have anybody on the ground in Grand Rapids, so I didn't have any information to share that would be new. So that's why that didn't happen. Okay, just to get it out there. I love y'all, especially you, Sissy. Thank you for moderating the chat. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for all you watching still, as I said, that stuck around here to the end. If you missed the first of it, go back and watch. I think we've pretty much exposed QAnon as a Russian propaganda, and I've got a lot more evidence, but in this one video, I think there's very little doubt that it's artificial intelligence, Russian deployed, trying to sabotage the United States of America electronically through social media. And they even talk about it a little bit in there, only they say that's what's being done to them, not that's what they are doing to those that watch that. So thank you. Have a blessed Good Friday. And if something happens and I don't come on tomorrow at all, have a blessed Good Friday. If something happens, I'm not here for the weekend. Have a blessed weekend. My plans are at the moment to at least do one episode tomorrow. I'm not sure when. And just hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when we're on. You can always unsubscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. And please hit that like button just because it helps generate the algorithm, whatever the heck that is, that more people might be able to see the show. I thank you. I love you. Namaste. Shalom. Salam. Blessings upon each and every one of you. I love you. Peace. This has been News Done Differently.